Hello. Cool. So morning, afternoon, and or evening, wherever it is you are. Announced yesterday, I believe, we have Logic Pro 11. It's finally here. Officially, there's not a numbered update. And if we go and look in, say, all new features, for the time being, it's still 10.8. But it was announced that we're going to have 11, and they have updated the website with a bunch of the new stuff. So we're going to have a look over that. And I'm looking forward to all the new features being showcased as well. So we're just going to go over some of the new stuff. I want to share some of my thoughts with it, what I'm really excited for. And yeah, it's interested to see the direction it's finally going in. I think the best bit of news, anyone who owns the desktop version, like most of us will, it's going to be a free update, and it's being called Logic Pro 2 on the iPad and continues the subscription route that it was already down. So let's have a look. And first off, the first thing we're presented with, for some reason, they've gone with the image of Chroma here, and Logic 11 is looking pretty much like what we're used to. Anyone who was around for Logic 9 through to 10, there was a mega transition into what 10 looks like now, how we're used to it. And yeah, it's remaining the same. It's the same workflow. We're not going to get lost. And yes, it is very nice that it is a free update. I was 100% convinced they were going to drop 11 and move to subscription only for anyone on 11. 100% convinced, because it's the move they've made with iPad. The fact they haven't done that, I mean, the backlash would be outrageous, but it's Apple. They don't really give a shit about that, do they? The fact they haven't done that, good shout on Apple. Something as well, I'm going to flip straight off this page, even though we're starting. If we go to the text and specs for it, now they've not updated the all new features yet, but the text and specs seem to have been updated. So like the new install, 72 gig if you want to install the sound, but it will work on Ventura 13.5. And again, I was expecting you have to update to the latest system, because they do that with some just minor updates. So that's another really nice shout, because I'm still running Ventura, because a bunch of stuff doesn't get updated nice and quickly. I'm usually about a year behind. So that's a good shout as well. It's a free update, which is a good shout. 72 gig of sound, like overall, is massive, and we'll see why that is as we go through some of the new features, right? And yeah, Logic Pro, like, yeah, I completely agree with you, dude. Completely agree with you. Let's have a little look at some of the things. First thing, we've got this little image down here. Now, this plugin is something I would have been really excited about in the past. Not so much now, but it's going to be a nice little touch for some people. So let's scroll down. So we've got powerful creative tools for professional songwriting, beat making, and editing. Yeah, the fact beat makers are being included is a nice touch. They're respecting that is a massive art form. Big on the Dolby Atmos side of things. Now, this doesn't interest me all that much, but a friend of mine, Kurt, who he's now basically made his career in taking people's mixes and making them Dolby Atmos and spatial audio compatible. So it's a massive thing for him, and it is a massive realm at the minute. And that's generated new jobs in the industry. It's sold more speakers. It's caused more mixes to need to be made. It's created a whole new job market. So it's great that that's being leaned into, and it's, if you're already working in Logic, a free option that keeps getting improved. So massively behind it. It doesn't excite me, but it is a huge thing. Obviously, we know we've got a massive collection of plugins. The control from iPad, that's still got support all the way down to the iPod Touch. So if, like me, I'm operating from an iPad down here so I can see your guys' chat, you can still use all of those options, which is good. I'd like to see that they're keeping the backwards compatibility with that as well, which is very un-Apple, right? Cool. And the call-on session players for realistic bass, keyboard, or drum performances. Now, it used to just be the drummer. I use the drummer loads to like get quick patterns going, ideas, and shifting it around. They're really bringing this home with a massive update, which is nice. And then the warming up your tracks is this little plugin we've just seen here. There's more info on that down. And then some bits we've actually seen already drip feed in. So like the mastering your mix, I've covered that on this channel. I put a video, I think last week, showing a newer way that I'm using that to when it first dropped. And yeah, some powerful tools to augment your artistry. They're referring there to the fact that Picture was updated very quietly in the background and is in the current version of Logic with some neural engine tweaking. So it still works in the old way and you can still use your old projects with the new Picture, but it does a way better job than it used to. So cool, let's have a look at the session player's groove with you. So if you're using Logic Pro already and you're familiar with Drummer, which is, we've got Logic open, no, I'm not going to switch over, where you can add a drummer in and very quickly move the patterns around and get things shifted over very, very quickly and easily. And we will jump over to Logic. Let's grab you. Right, just there. That, hopefully then you can see Logic like so. I don't know why the bottom of the screen's cut off, but we'll deal with it. So you can add drummer in, so you can do this. You've got different variations, so rock, alternative, songwriter, and we've got the percussion one as well, which loads a different set of kits. So like I use it all the time for like adding quick ride patterns and things like that. And can operate on live stream, happy days. Sweet, you can see and hear that. So we can very quickly like change patterns out. Get a way more upbeat pattern, take it back, chill it out, make it nice and simple and quiet. Add rides and hi-hats in, put a shaker in, mix up the pattern types. Super, super useful for just building and fleshing things out nice and quickly. They're adding that to a whole bunch of the other instruments, which if you follow this channel you would have seen it can sometimes be very difficult to use things like session strings, for example. There we are. Now in theory you should be able to come back to there. Cool. So they're adding it into things like the bassist instruments, the string instruments, the key instruments as well. So we'll very quickly be able to flesh out an idea or get something that's working a little bit more humanized for MIDI. Say you really struggle playing like your chords and piano out, you can get that out and laid out very, very quickly, convert it into MIDI and be operating a lot quicker than you can fumbling around on your keyboard like you maybe sometimes do with particular instrument types. Like for example, I'm fine playing like legato and a bit of staccato strings, for example. But then when it comes to like doing a chord with the left hand and melodies and different things on the keys, I just can't do it particularly well. This gives me a really good starting point and idea generating point, much like we do with the drummer. It absolutely leads into the ability to drop all these things in and just build a track out very quickly. But again, it's a tool to be used and utilized. And I can see it being in like the GarageBand version on iPad, really super creative option, where it's kind of existed for a long time already in terms of the chord playing on the screen. Again, really excited to see how that plays and performs. We have a little look down here at what we've got with it. So the bass player, and as you can see, it's showing you the notes and velocities and kind of like your MIDI playing of the notes, but with the velocity in there, which is a super nice touch as well. And this little breakdown right here of the chords or the key it's playing in, I really like that. Got D, M, C, A minor, G. That makes it way easier to follow along when you're playing your own things into this or generating ideas, right? And if we look at the bottom here, we only get to see the main, we don't get to see the details manual, the mixer, but they've added loads of extra implementation in compared to what we get with drummer, so we can really tweak that up. And I'm guessing instead of pulling from a set of MIDI libraries, which is what the drummer really does, you can always convert them to MIDI because it pulls from different MIDI patterns. This looks like it's more AI based, so it will be creating that pattern on the fly based on what you've put in there, based on the chord structure and things that you want, and all these other adjustments. Otherwise, it would be trying to pull from like several 100,000 different MIDI options. It looks like that's what it's doing. So neural engine creating it on the fly. It's a really similar layout with the keys, except you've even got the ability to choose, like I was just saying, I struggle with doing chords and then keys because it's just not how I'm naturally learned to play effectively. you've got that option to program it in there, and you potentially have one hand doing your keys, doing your chords, and you could play the melody out with the right, which is way more natural than double layering and double taking them over and over. Again, big fan of this. If we look at the drummer, mega update on that as well, in the way it's formatted. Look, so there's the complexity and everything. We've got rid of that XY option we looked at a minute ago. I'd like to see what's in details and manual, but we're going to have to wait until, I believe it's May 13th. Studio bass stripped back a bit, but again, really nice option. This looks like it's going to be a lot like the Scarabee basses. Is it Scarabee that you find with Native Instruments? So mega excited for that as well. It says choose from 6 history defining bass guitar instruments. So instead of all the separate instruments, they're just all stacked into this one plugin for us. And this one's exciting too. Studio piano has now got its own dedicated option. Let's choose from 3 meticulously sampled pianos. I am hoping they're not just the ones taken from Sampler and given their own plugin, and they have actually been re-recorded, resampled, and they are new pianos. I don't think they would do that, like take the sampler ones and stick them in their own tool. They might though. So if they're completely new ones, that's going to be fantastically interesting. It's about time we got some really nice, detailed, multi-layered pianos, right? I know the keyboard player looks dead exciting, right? Even if I can just allocate the left hand to doing a chord structure, and I can choose that chord structure, and that then lets me freely play the melody at the same time, so I can kind of one key the chord structure in with any MIDI keyboard and then play my melody. That just gives me a whole world of freedom that I really struggle with, and no matter how much I practice, it's just not something I can seem to grasp. So yeah, really excited for that as a tool as well, man. And there we go, the chord track. So across the top now, where we would normally do our like smart tempo and tempo automation, all that jazz, we've now got a chord track. I would use this a lot for arrangement as well. So being able to just take a verse and chorus and switch them out. We can now choose what chord structure we want to be per bar. Hopefully we can go a lot deeper than that as well. So again, that should work with that keyboard instrument, so we know what chord that's going to be. I'm going to go G, E, etc. And we can see it. We've got a visual indicator. The keyboard instrument's going to pick it up and we can play along with that, just giving us that creativity and freedom. I also really like the way this is laid out. We can just choose like our root note, min, minor, and then the chord types and structures, and just gets more and more intricate in terms of your music theory as it goes down the menu. Loving that layout, loving that as a feature as well for music creation and writing. It's given us a mega suite of new creative tools, which is really exciting to me anyways. So as we scroll down a bit, your own personal studio assistants. So new powerful tools that are always ready for augmenting your artistry, whether it's learning how to mix or warming up your mixes. That's interesting to me, because it's been, a desire for people to kind of emulate particular studio equipment for a long time, and Logic have dabbled in that. They didn't do a great job with the analog EQs, but they're there and they're useful. But they just hit straight home with this right here, something that's already in FL Studio, covered on this channel in the beta before it even launched, but a stem splitter, which to some people they're not going to care. But if you ever work with samples or you're into sampling, like off of vinyl, however it be, these things are incredibly useful, because you can now pick up a sample that's maybe got drums in it that you don't particularly want the drums, use the stem splitter to intelligently remove those out and just print that audio that you want. And it's just incredibly useful for that kind of creative element. Logic now going to actually have that included, so I don't have to bounce into FL, do the stem split, or go to Lala AI or put it into RX directly within Logic. Mega feature update that for me. I hope it's implemented really well. I think what I'll do when this drops, I will A and B between all the different options, between like La and RX and FL Studio and Logic, and see what ones can actually do the best splitting. See if one is particularly better at pulling vocals out, one is better at getting rid of drums or pulling drums out. And we'll really like shoot into them and find out what does the best job. Because at the minute, sometimes I'm going into RX to do it, sometimes I'm using the credits that I've got on Lite, and then FL Studio does a pretty good job if it's a high quality file at just pulling everything apart, but there's loads of artifacts. So let's see if Apple's pulled something out of the bag and done that even better. Next, we've got Chroma Glow. So here we're looking at warming up your audio, which, you know, the whole analog emulation thing. Now, to be honest, FatFX generally is good enough for this. This looks like it could be interesting. It says modern tube modeling and things like that. We've seen elements of this applied in the mastering plugin that was added fairly recently, I think a few months back now. And it's interesting, you've got like the high cut and low cut, assuming that's allowing the normal signal to pass through. So it's like a wet dry mix, which I'm guessing by the dry option it's going to be. I don't really know. You'll be able to blend this in, which is a nice touch that kind of makes it multi-band. So you could just take like the middle where the vocal sits and just kind of warm that up a little bit. Something that I teach to do with Ozone's Exciter, when you've got like a slightly dipped out a bit of vocal, just kind of isolate that top bit, saturate it a little bit. Doesn't saturate the whole track, it doesn't stick out to the ear, it just lifts those areas up. Hopefully we can do that with this tool, and that's what they're going for. As for like general analog emulation and sticking saturation on the master, it's just not something I do anymore. I used to love having like SSLs across the whole mixer and emulating that workflow and whatnot. I just don't like it anymore. I much prefer like modern, detailed and clean. But nice addition, and if it can do what I just suggested, incredible tool to now have available to us in Logic. Makes the mastering aspect even more better as well. Even more better. Bad English, but I'm going to roll with it. Pitch correction. It's sort of added this as new, but honestly, this is already in Logic. It was quietly put in a while ago. I think they did that to sort of cross-test, to be honest, whether or not the old pitcher, when it was used in projects, would still function fine. And it seems to be really good. It does just sound loads better. If you don't believe me, actually go and open up the pitcher in the latest version of Logic, and it's there and it's functioning way better than it used to. Basically, you end up putting this switch on and it goes into a newer engine, effectively. That's all it's really been doing. And sounds better, whereas your default ones, when you opened it up, this thing is switched off. Master plugin doesn't seem to be having any kind of updates to it. It looks exactly the same, so that was kind of slipped in a while ago as well. There's like the character with the valves and everything I was saying about on this. We've already seen elements of that creeping in. But again, really good tool. Covered that literally a week or two ago with the way I've been using it in recent masters. Amazing tool, absolutely get on board with that. And Smart Tempo has been there forever and a day, but it looks like we've got updates in that we can fluctuate it and have it where we've got tempos that ebb and flow. We can automate that by the looks of things. I need to have a real play with it, but it looks like flex time is now a good part of variable Smart Tempo, which is great for someone who plays and records live. I mostly work with MIDI and sample stuff, not so much, but I do use it for detecting BPMs and stuff like that of samples that are maybe a bit wonky or in an unfamiliar time signature. Yeah, so the Logic pitch corrector sounds a lot better now. If you've got a project where you've had it loaded in and you've got the current version of Logic, go and test it out. So I've used it before where in a mix you can maybe get away with it. The newer version just sounds a lot better. Is it as good as Auto-Tune? No, I don't think so, but it's free inside Logic and doesn't cost, what do I pay for Auto-Tune? I think $19 a month. Mega difference there of like $120 a year or free, and it does a way better job than it used to. If it's been updated even further on the back end for 11, I doubt it, because then it would fuck up all your previous projects where they've had it implemented and you've been using it. But it does sound and function a lot better than it was. So then we got like mixing tools for the most part. Stem splitter, for me, by far the most exciting bit, because it just increases my workflow even more so than previously. And then spatial audio, like I said, I'm not mega excited about this, but it's fantastic that they are so on top of it and supporting it, because it is a complete industry for music. Effectively, it's given a whole new area of jobs, new headphones, more speakers being sold, more people having to do mixing work for performance based. It's just wicked that they are supporting it and pushing it forward, which again, Apple want to sell the headphones. It kind of makes sense to sync it all in and be innovators in that space. So that's good to see. The fact it's a free update and free for the support is wicked. The evolution they've done here to like the binaural and spatial mixing, that is incredible. You used to have to pay so much for like an Adobe suite of tools and to operate in basically a whole separate mix environment to do this, or Pro Tools with, was it HDX version? I can't really remember. It's a long time ago since I did any of that. It cost a friggin' fortune either way to have this kind of implementation that's now in here in Logic for free and is being updated and supported so much better. So we've got all the 3D elements of, basically takes your left and right pan and gives you the whole spectrum to move around, which we've had that for a long time anyway. I covered like binaural audio on the channel like 6 years ago, maybe even longer at this point. But it's being supported further and implemented into the whole spatial audio and Dolby Atmos, which is incredible. And then plug-in enhancements for spatial audio as well, like supporting it on reverbs and things like that. You don't have to go and spend shed loads on brand new expensive tools just to work in surround sound, Atmos and spatial audio. Wicked update in that space. Like I say, I'm not mega excited, but wicked update for it to exist. And then sound packs, like I alluded to at the start, a full install of Logic now is 72 gig, which is absolutely huge. And this seems to be why they've added adding a huge amount of new sound packs, which is wicked. There is a learn more on here if you so desire to go through all of them and have a look at all the sound pack options that are going to get added. It's just a case of scrolling through a mega list of things, which is somewhat less exciting than we were already doing. Look at all this good stuff that's getting added. Love it. Anyway, go back. So that's mega. I will probably have to download packs at a time, and we'll do like track from scratch with particular sound packs, which is kind of cool. Logic Remote's getting a nice big update. I don't know if you've ever used GarageBand on the iPad, but you've got these little movement icons you see down here where we can now operate, say, on your iPad and keep that everything in sync. They're really useful for recording in automation and like drawing in automation using your finger in real time. It's been on GarageBand forever and a day, like no joke, maybe about 10 years at this point. So it's great to have that implementation if you use some kind of remote. Honestly, if you've got an iPhone, you could use your iPhone for drawing in automation in Logic, which is a really great way to work. If you've not got like a dedicated keyboard or any of the like kit you see people like me have, literally just use your iPhone and use that to draw in and do your automation. There's an option for you. Got an old iPad, you use it for that. Hell, it says it supports iPod Touch if you want to go and buy an old iPod Touch and do it that way. Finally, multi-touch mixing, so I can do multiple faders at a time and adjust those and record the automation in. Turn the live loops into more of a performable, especially at Ableton Live. You can perform with live loops to a degree. I have never believed it to be as stable enough to use live, to be honest. With that said, now that I'm running on the Mac Studio, I've never had kind of like a drawback issue with Logic. However, I've not tested it out on like an M1 MacBook or anything like that where you would perform live. I could bring the studio, but I wouldn't bring the studio anywhere. And yeah, Ableton's still the way to go for that, even for just these kind of things. However, Live Loops has got an update. Explore musical ideas using the grid of loops, phrases that you can trigger and manipulate in real time. Again, trigger from an iPad or on a Mac, for example. You could perform live with it. I have in fact performed live with it. I used to do performances in the Apple Store, and when it was, it used to be the Pharrell session, and we had a mix of Happy on the iPads, and we could perform live with that, talking about how the different elements like the a cappella worked, and here's how you bring the beat in, and here's how you can take parts out, here's how you can introduce yourself performing over the beat and then bring Pharrell back in. So it is doable on something like an iPad. For me, it's never been stable enough in Logic. Perhaps this is the update to change that, who knows. Beat sequencer still there. From what I could tell here, it hasn't had an update. I don't know, to be honest. I don't use it enough, but it looks the same as when I've taught it in the past. Your performance should be a separate video. It would help me so much. Explain what you mean by the performance. Oh, you mean like how you could perform on Live Loops? I will tell you to go and look for John Paul, aka I think he's Loop Artist. If not, I will get his details in a sec and pop them in the chat for you. I'm 99% sure he's covered it. I used to work with him. He's an awesome guy. In fact, no, that's my channel dashboard, so I can't open that up. I will find it for you in a bit and I'll pop it in the chat before we go. And if he hasn't covered it, I'll tell him to do it soon. Compositions, performance, yeah, your studio's already in session. To be honest, I don't see any of this as new. It's like your takes folders and your takes comping. I'd have to wait for the all new features to see if they've improved the takes comping. It looks the same to me, apart from it's like giving you different color options, which if you've got your auto color option set in your settings, it does anyway. So it looks the same to me. Automation lanes drawn in on the MIDI, again, same thing. So I don't know what it's really pushing there. Maybe it's just saying you can do this for anyone who's not seen Logic before. Again, ultimate way to record, so up to 1,000 stereo or surround tracks. Yeah, awesome. Again, the comping shown here, get the most out of MIDI. The MIDI editor, everything appears to be the same. I still like having the inspector and swing everything down here, and your chords, scale, quantize, all in one place. Again, looks the same to me. Coloring all looks the same. Automation looks the same. Live loops for spontaneous composition. So I think what they're going on about here is the new sessions and sounds they've added have all got their own live loop sessions, which is kind of cool. I know before, like the Tracker Girl one had a live loop session, and there was a Boom Bap one that had a live loop session. If all of them have got it, potentially the option for live performance is something they're really focusing on. But again, we need to wait and see if that is the case. But it seems to be. Step sequencer, again, they've literally just alluded to this above, but it all looks the same to me. We've got the velocity, note repeat, the back and forth, the ping. Again, really, really useful. It's nice that came over from GarageBand, is now incorporated. And you can flip in and out of the drum kits, and you can get really complex with it. Did an old tutorial on that showing how to utilize it on the iPad, but it's the same functionality. The remix grid, so this is amazing for drawing in automation with your finger. We covered that already. Innovation Launchpad, live off the grid. For some reason, we're now finally supporting Launchpad, which is a great thing, right? I don't know what else to say about that. I think they're kind of going in on the live loop and Ableton kind of option with Launchpad. I may see if we can pick up a Launchpad and test it out if JP isn't going to do that. And then industry leading tools. I mean, what a mega update it's been, but Flex Pitch to me looks the same. Don't believe that's been touched. Flex Time looks the same. Don't believe that has been touched. However, both amazing tools. Quick takes and compiling seem to be the same. The crossfade that was introduced is there and still the same. Track stacks are looking the same in the way they stack them and fold them up. Color coordination, everything all looking the same to me. Track alternative takes are the same. Your project alternatives are looking the same as well. So none of this is saying that it's brand new. And then production effects, sampling base, music notation, exporting, bounce. That'd be funny if you couldn't bounce your project out, wouldn't it? That is a pro feature apparently. There we go. That seems to be everything being added. Like I said, when I checked a little while ago, that all new features hadn't been updated. So just what's new in 10.8, which is when they added the mastering assistant and sample alchemy. So hopefully hopefully guys, soon we will see that get added. Now I'm going to go and see if I can grab JP's channel right here in front of you lot for you in the chat, and you can see that I watch Mortal Kombat in the background most of the time and a bunch of fitness stuff. Loop artist John Paul, there's our guy, John Paul Music UK. Super good dude, super good teacher, does courses as well if you're into that and you would want a whole performance based course. Let me drop that in there for you, dude. Boom, there you go. Nice one, man. Like I say, awesome guy. I think if you go videos and we go search and we go logic, you might see if he's covered live loops. If not, I'll send him a text. Somewhere he probably has, and maybe I can convince him to do it when 11 drops. Great, so that, guys, seems that's all the information we've got so far. There is definitely more because they haven't updated the all new features, and there was more showing up to us in the sound files that have been added, but also doesn't seem to be up to date. Like some stuff is still somewhat missing, like Roland sound packs. Pretty sure we already have those. Like this doesn't seem like it's been updated, even though it's the learn more from the new page. So there's potentially going to be more to come, which is super exciting. Guys, that is it. What if you got any thoughts, anything that you think sucks is awesome? I mean, I'm buzzed for this. I obviously work in Logic every single day. It's massive for me. I think probably the most exciting thing is the stem splitter because it just picks my workflow up so much more than anything else. Being able to do that, if I want to sample something now, I don't have to be as picky either. I can sample things that in the past were a nightmare to sample. I can now strip the vocals out and I've got just the instrumentation part of that, which is pretty sick. What we'll do as well, if you haven't managed to get this already, it's literally just the main Logic Pro page in the Apple website, but there's the link for it. Specifically the UK one, I don't know if it's showing up anywhere else yet. Like I say, the all new features, etc. haven't shown up yet, so it's quite possible that they'll update later today. Who knows? Yeah, if there's no questions, no other thoughts to share, I am going to wrap it up right there because I just ranted about a web page for about 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. But yeah, super exciting, really excited to get my hands on it in only a few days, really, on the 13th. So awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I hope that was helpful. If you did have any questions, I will jump back on if you catch me before I end the live. Thanks for watching. See you soon.